Welcome back to Behind the Caution Tape. I am your host, CrashLit. This is a special edition as today I am joined by USC soccer alum Simone Jackson. Simone, welcome to the pod. I'm really excited to have you.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really great interview, especially just with just how exciting of a year you and your team are coming off of. So I'm really excited to just hear your story and just learn about your time at USC. Before we get any further, make sure to follow Simone Jackson on Instagram at SimoneJackson.80. And with that being said, let's get into everything. So I want to take it back to kind of the beginning of your soccer journey. What got you into soccer and how old were you?
Oh man, I was 4 and I vividly remember starting club at 6 because I have an older cousin that played and I was like, I want my family to come to my games and it was all about the fun of the sport and familiar support too.
So you kind of would say like kind of you're just having that like fun, I guess that fun aspect of it has been something that's like kept you going with it.
Yeah, and I was a competitor from the start, so there is that.
That's been pretty evident of when I see every time I've seen you on the field. I'll say that much. But what made you stay with it growing up? Even just, things got tough. Maybe you weren't playing as much as you would have liked, or just, maybe just you were frustrated with, your performance or found yourself in a slump.
I think it's always been the culture around the sport. I mean, I love team sports. I like the friends that I made from it, the opportunity that comes with it, the travel, and I don't know, I'm a very lifestyle girly, so I feel like it's always been all the opportunity that surrounds it and the people.
Gotcha. And then, so I know you've had deep ties to USC due to like your father, grandfather, and brother all having been here before you. So can you talk about just how your family ties factored into your decision to come to USC?
Oh man, I mean, family is everything to me, and I think that like especially at USC, like legacy means a lot. And I grew up like going to football games, wearing the jersey. My dad broadcasted. I was in the booth, like I was in the pictures with Pete Carroll. So like that stuff means a lot to me, and I think that like everything comes full circle, and like when you have it in front of you, and you're just oftentimes just re-reminded of it, and you're almost like destined to achieve it when it's in front of your face.
What was it like getting to go to, football games like when you were a kid growing up?
I honestly was like one of those people that just like tagged along for the fun. And I think like it was just nice to be included with my brothers. It's something that I could do with them and something that I could do with my family. And it was a place to be.
And then can you talk about the significance of the number 80 in your family? Because I know like you wore it, your brother wore it when he was here, and then your dad and your grandfather. So can you just talk about like who wore it first, then how it got passed down to both you and then John the third, your older brother.
Yeah. My grandfather was a coach for USC football. I think it was an offensive coordinator at a point in time. And my dad played for USC and he wore one when he was at USC, but when he got to the NFL, the Cardinals, he wore 80. And when my brother came through, he wore number 80. And when I came, I was like, let me switch things up, like a lot of times like my dad says it looks like I run routes on the soccer field. So I think it's kind of like a fun switch up and I have them kind of with me when I step on the pitch.
Okay, gotcha. It's really cool, and like I've heard kind of pieces of it over the years, like at like football games. I think they had John on a couple times talk about it. So I just was like
Yes.
always cool to like kind of hear the story of like, especially when there's a number like that that runs deep in the family.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's fun and I think it's something that not everyone gets to have. So
And then just what was it like getting to come and be at USC alongside John for was it about 2 years roughly?
yeah, yeah. It's funny when like you feel like you're following your brother through through like schools and I was like, he can't get rid of me. We were in the same apartment complex, and I'd like open the door and be like, "Good morning, neighbor." And so we had a lot of fun. Like he showed me the ropes. Like I kind of like got to wiggle around some of like your tips and tricks coming on campus, like having someone that can get me through the lines fast, like show me like get me dining hall dinner. Like I had it made. And we were like obviously both athletes, so we're always so busy. So it's nice to like go over and have some wings for dinner, like just the little things I really appreciated, just beyond, going to each other's sporting events.
Gotcha. And then yeah, I can kind of relate, although I'm the older one in my family. My brother's actually now a freshman here, so
Aw.
I guess I kind of see it. But yeah, I
You
see
guys
what you're
literally like run around both to games with like the caution tape. Like I love it.
we'll see. I mean, he's not as into it as I am, but we're getting off topic. Let's bring it back to you. But yeah, so
Yeah.
can you talk to me about like what your college recruiting process looked like and what led you to choose USC aside from the family aspect? Like what else were you looking for besides just, kind of like this is where like my family's gone, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I committed as a freshman in high school, and like at that time, you don't really know what the team might look like 4 years out. So I was basically going off of the culture and like kind of like, can I see myself on this campus, if I'm playing the sport or if I'm not playing the sport? And it's close to home. I love that. And not many people know this, but I'm a big nerd. Like I'm taking 25 units this semester to finish my undergraduate and my master's. So I wanted a place where I could kind of like get the best of both worlds and do both. And I felt like this was a well-respected university like internationally for in the business school and as well as sports, so I felt like I could kind of like reach my highest potential in both areas.
And then in addition to playing for USC soccer, you also been involved with the US national team since like you were in middle school. So how do you balance both USC with your I guess with your time with the US team?
Honestly, the US team is very heavy in the youth stages, so like when I was 14 up to when I was 20, because the World Cup is U20s, U17 and U20, so it's very heavy on like the early parts traveling wise. So I ended up only missing like I'd say like a month or like 2 months, two months tops in terms of like USC stuff. So it ended up working out pretty well. But I mean, the professors here work really well with me and student athletes in general, so it wasn't too much of a challenge.
Then can you kind of talk to me about like some of your time at like USC and just some of your favorite moments with the program, maybe also like with the program?
Yeah. I think my favorite moment was the Stanford game my freshman year. It was the craziest game I'd ever played in, and it was like crazy talent. Like, your Croy Bethunes. We were playing against like your Naomi Gurmas, and it was such a fun game because we were down and had that like Taylor's oldest time like fight on spirit to like come back with not one goal but two goals, and I scored and I assisted, and we were just on one. And I think that was like the best game in my USC career, and I think that it was so much fun because it really took us all.
Gotcha, yeah. And then obviously there were definitely, I guess, I'm sure some challenges along the way, especially some that are kind of noticeable, especially like what was it like going through a coaching change just after your freshman year, which is like what one semester after you got here, right?
Yeah, I think like it definitely was a switch up for all of us. I think that obviously you commit to a coach and you love that coach and you see your 4 years going out perfectly like it was in your head. And I think that and like looking back on it, I think it was needed. I think that like adjusting to change only makes you better in like the professional space, and figuring out like how you can still add value in each and every coach's coaching style. So figuring out how like I conform to whatever style that we played that was different than my old coach. Still keep in contact with my old coach, which is so cool, and it means um, that like coaches like you beyond just what you can do for them. So yeah, I think that it was challenging, but like we finished like a storybook ending, at least for how we started my senior year.
Gotcha. Did you consider at all like transferring at all by just out of curiosity? Did you consider like entering the portal or is that like not going to happen?
No, it was never gonna happen. I think everyone knew that. I mean, I'm a Trojan like through and through, and I never came here just for the soccer. I came here for the school, came here to be close to family, and it was something like I was like, this is something I'm going to do. I start where I finish. I know the transfer portal is huge and it's big, and there's a lot of opportunity for some people there, but something about remaining loyal to a place means something.
Yeah, I feel like it's just kind of different for everyone, and I feel like there's just a lot of factors. But I was just curious, like, did it ever cross your mind? And
Yeah.
didn't seem like, especially as I was asking the question, you were shaking your head at
Yeah,
me.
I was like, not even
Yeah.
once. I was like, not even once.
Yeah. So then also obviously another big challenge kind of throughout the time was moving from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. And also that same year you also, new stadiums getting built, so you're playing most of your games off campus. So kind of how did you, adjust to both, travel, I guess more travel for, both for both home games as well as away games.
Oh man, that was probably the hardest schedule I've ever done. Like we would leave Tuesday and we'd get back Sunday night. And then I was like, I'd never done something as like hard of a travel schedule as that. And I feel like we were everywhere and like like you like there was no time to like stop and like reset. It was like you got to stay focused through it all. But I think like the fact that we were winning like everything helped with the travel schedule because it felt like you were doing something and you were seeing the result. And I think it just kept us on that adrenaline, kept us going, and you barely even noticed it after a time. You honestly started to like enjoy the hotel beds and enjoy like getting away. So yes, it was challenging, but I think the fact that we were winning helped it a lot.
Yeah, so can you also like, well, that you did definitely have to play a lot of games off campus. You have to play in a couple, cool stadiums like BMO
Yeah.
Stadium and then Dignity Health Sports Park. What were those two games like, especially like the Ohio State and UCLA games? Like I remember going out to both those, and those were really cool experiences.
I think that BMO experience, I would literally like do the whole away game situation all over again just for that one stadium. It was the most beautiful like pitch I've ever played on. Like and getting the game winner in that game, I was like I felt I was like on top of the world. We all felt so loved that we could even get to play on a stadium that was meant for professionals. So that there and then when the fans showed out for Dignity Health, it literally felt like we belong there. We were like really repping our city. So
Yeah,
yeah, loved it.
yeah, those are both really cool games. And before I move on, like, what was it like during that BMO game to have that game winner? Because I remember that was like the PK got missed and it went right to you, and you drilled it in to
It was like
clinch it.
it was so Hollywood. It felt like you couldn't have written it better. Like I drew the PK and I was like, okay, like this is like typically what we do. Like we've done it a million times. And then like when the keeper saved it, you could just hear like the stands just go, ooh. And then like I followed it up and everyone was like going crazy. Like I couldn't hear a singular thing. So it was probably one of the best moments that year for sure.
Yeah, and that was a good. That Ohio State team was good this year. Like I remember, like I'm
Seriously.
gonna say this, like, and it's nothing against you or your teammates, but I thought that goalkeeper, like, I thought she was the player of the match for
No,
because
yeah,
just
she
she
was
was
having a
stopping
game.
everything, and she was bad when you got that one by her.
And she was so mad. I literally was like, I think it's so funny, like, because people can be having a great game, but all it takes for a forward is one. And
Yeah,
all you just one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so can you talk to me just like what it was like to win the Big Ten championship this season, and then like just yeah, like what that was like, obviously at UCLA and just that whole season, like getting to hoist that trophy and then everything there.
I think it was just like the a compilation of just all that we've been through because each and every year we always fall one game short, like one or two games short. Like we're doing flawless and then we fall short and we fall short and we feel like we get robbed every single year. So I think that it was just like one of those like we stayed focused from start to finish and we weren't going to let any kind of mishap, accident situation like we almost willed ourselves to win and like it wasn't like we want to win, it was like we have to win. So like that just felt like icing on the cake. It felt like um finally getting what we felt like we deserved.
And then what was it like also, getting to go play and advance all the way to the Elite Eight and just like what was it like just talk about and then you just talk about what it was like to, just keep advancing each week and just moving on next round.
Yeah, it felt like we were the underdogs throughout it all. And I think like we showed that we're a very like talented team with some flair and some great individual players. Um, and I didn't realize like how much love and support we had behind us, even though we were on the road all the time. So just seeing like fans fill the entire stadium, I think like really meant a lot for each and every one of us because we didn't even realize how loved we actually were. And if you're gonna go out, you go out in PKs, and it was a sad ending, but I think like we played so well throughout the entire season, and each and every person was like proud of what we did, and at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah, I remember like even that one that I think is the second round game in Irvine. That was the one I made it to. Like I just remember like I was kind of surprised at how many people showed up. And I mean, I do.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of Trojans alum in OC, but still, just like the number of people that made it down was like
Yeah. And it was like an outrageous game with like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But we found a way that day.
I gotta say, all the games that I went to, like they were all total thrillers.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know why we love these kinds of games. It's so funny to me how
I
we
mean, obviously, I mean, you tell me you know this better than I do for sure, but it's like they're definitely, I guess, more entertaining, even though they are way more stressful.
exactly. Exactly. But I feel like we almost put ourselves in those situations to pull out some crazy magic hat trick at the end.
Yeah. And then obviously, while it was a heartbreaker, fall to Wake Forest in the Elite Eight on PKs, as you were saying. Like, what was it just that experience, like knowing just how close you were to, making it to the national semifinals?
Yeah, like we had like big dreams. And I think that like it sucks to lose in PKs and it's just like a reality of the game. It just was so frustrating simply because like how we came back, like because we were down and like I scored and then Kayla scored and we were up 2-1. And I almost like think that we were having the storybook ending a little too early. But it was just one of those heartbreakers because we knew that we were the better team. At least we felt like we were the better team. And then, PK's got us in the end, and it's very unpredictable.
Absolutely, yeah. And then I want to go back to a bit of the travel that we were talking about earlier. Like, how do you feel like support from, like the coaches? Like, how did they like kind of help and support you and your teammates throughout all the travel?
I honestly think that like a lot of the support came from the athletic director. Um, she kind of like made sure like our travel was facilitated in like the best way that it possibly could in terms of like the timing of it, and everything got approved from the academic advisors. Like they really stepped up that season. I think like the real help comes from the people like at home that can help us with school because that just lessens the stress of how much school you're missing. Because the yeah, that's the where we need the real help. So I think the our student athlete academic advisors really came in clutch for that.
Then kind of transitioning a bit to academics, like what was your like degree in? Like what do you are you studying right now or like finishing up pretty much?
Yeah, I'm finishing up my undergrad in the BCA program, the Business of Cinematic Arts, with the minor in screenwriting, and then I'm getting my master's in entrepreneurship and innovation in the Marshall School as well.
And then are you thinking of going pro at all? And then have you like looked at that process? Are you considering it still? Like are you still looking
Yeah,
at that right now? Or
yeah,
what's kind of
I'm
your
I'm
game plan there?
I'm gonna go pro. I'm gonna go pro in May after I finish my degree.
Okay, so you're finishing that. And then do you have any other career aspirations besides soccer?
Yeah, I hope to use my screenwriting minor to write while I play. And I mean, obviously I can't hold a 9 to 5 while I play professionally, but afterward I want to go into the entertainment space and either be like a creative exec or get into writing full time or like the director, like um the director space. So we'll see if it's in like more of a creative or business capacity, but I know that's the world I want to live in.
But you're kind of like open to kind of seeing like kind of where it all sort of like where it
Yeah.
all lands. Like you're kind of keeping an open mind with it. I can
Yeah,
respect that.
yeah, yeah, and hope to leverage my, athlete side to get me in the door.
I bet. Well, you already like I can. Well, just that's why I wanted to interview you. You just have such a like interesting story. I mean, obviously, I mean, this wasn't fully why, but obviously, every time you walk into Fertitta, you're always there on the screen there.
Yes, Marshall shows me a whole lot of love.
Yeah, I can tell they love you there. And then, what are some of your favorite moments from your time at USC that weren't soccer related?
Oh man, I did a few study abroad trips actually, and I love them to death. I went to Thailand, Cuba, and Spain through the USC Marshall Excel program, and I love traveling first, but like traveling without sport and traveling with friends, like that good SC and you're all studying business and like international business, so it's like so first interesting to learn like the ins and outs of what you're like writing about and reading about all the time, and then just exploring new cities with your friends, like those are lifelong memories, and like the people make it so much fun, and like partying in different countries, like it's a different vibe, and those are for sure like my core memories. And then kind of like, I do regular things, like I've been to the 90 once and I've been down frat row and just doing like the normal like USC college stuff, hanging out in the village, stuff like that.
And then with your when you said you've gone abroad, were you doing that like during like the spring semester, or is it more of the Maymester? Because I'm just curious how you figured out like with your off-season training and all that.
I did yeah, I did a lot of that in May and then one during spring break. So yeah, it was all during spring off season kind of thing.
Gotcha. I'm just curious because I've like not really heard about too many of student athletes like going abroad at all during their time in college. So it's really impressive and kind of cool that you pulled that off.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll be like reading the fine print, like, like what can I do with this? So yeah.
Yeah, so obviously next season USC is going to be in the new Rawlinson Stadium. At least that's what it sounds like schedule. If it's everything's on schedule, which it sounds like it is. Are
Yeah.
you this might be a duh question, but do you plan on coming to soccer matches even though you're going to be graduated by this point next year?
Yeah. I actually like fell in love with this year's freshman class. Like I think that they're the coolest humans. I think that like just kind of like seeing the next gen is interesting, and kind of seeing how everyone progresses, and I'll definitely be back. And I'm practically 20 minutes. I'm from Redondo Beach, so I have extra incentive.
Makes sense. And then while you won't get to play in Rawlinson Stadium, at least as a Trojan, hopefully there's some way I'd love to see you get to play there and during your time as a pro.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I was
but
like
what,
that. That's such a like I know some pro teams like practice on our field, but now that it's like gonna be an actual stadium, it's gonna be cool if I ever end up coming back.
yeah, and then what are you just most excited for about it with just the team and like the players who are going to get to be on that team and play their next season?
I think I'm most excited about it bringing out like the fans that I think that we're deserving of. Like I love what women's basketball is doing right now, like selling out games. Like I can so see that for us in our future. But now that we have like the right platform, and I think that women's soccer in general is on the up and up. So I think I'm just excited for like the fan engagement.
Yeah, and it seems like I've noticed you've been one who's really tried to push that and really try to promote your team. Like I've really seen like some of the stuff you put on social media about it. Like I think I remember I saw one of the videos you posted when they like announced that Rawlinson Stadium was getting built.
Yeah. President Folt was like so key in making that all happen. So I was like, the least I could do is come up and speak in front of all the donors and stuff.
What was that experience like? Now that we're just talking about, I'm kind of curious. Like, what was that like to speak in front of like the boosters and like the key donors for USC?
Oh man, like you think that you're a good like talker until you have like a speech and you're nervous and you're like, oh my gosh, like I was playing it cool and now I'm like up in front of all these people who donated millions of dollars, and I'm trying to express for the entire team plus lacrosse how grateful we are. So you feel like you can never put into perfect words, but then you're just like, okay, let me just take a deep breath and talk to them like my friend. But it's just so cool that I was even, offered the opportunity to do it. So yeah.
Yeah. And then for next year's team, what do you think the key to success for them is, especially, with you and then a bunch of, key veteran leaders going to be, out of college ability and moving on to, next chapters of your lives?
I think that kind of like not necessarily like going off of like what, my strong suit is or what some of the graduating seniors' strong suits are, like kind of forming their own kind of style and playing to what fits them best, even if it means kind of whether it's changing formations or whatever it is that best suits them, like not necessarily trying to copy what we've already done, but form something new that works for them and kind of not feel too much pressure based off of like the year that we had, but finish out however like they can in their own flair way is what I think that could be really beneficial for the class coming up.
Gotcha. And then got a few more questions for you, and then I'll let you go. So, what's the best advice you've ever gotten from anyone?
Oh man, this is a this is a hard one. I think my national team coach gave me like really good advice and it kind of like shaped my trajectory in that space, and she always said, think about your ladder of potential and keep climbing that ladder of potential to get to your highest level. Because if you look to your left and you look to your right, and someone might be on a different bar than you today, but if your ladder is taller than theirs, you're going to end up surpassing them. So I think that like thinking about my sports journey or just life outside of sport as a ladder, and knowing that if I'm open-minded enough, even if someone's on top of me today, they might not have me tomorrow, they might not have me next year, as long as I keep climbing.
And then my last question for you is, what's the best advice you'd give to anyone who, sees you, aspires to you, and wants, play soccer either collegiately or professionally? Like any of those, like, those little kids you always see like in the front row after games, like wanting, come try to talk to you or take a photo.
Yeah, I love the kids that we get the support. I'd say probably just like advocating for themselves in terms of getting all that they can out of whatever university that they go to. It's not necessarily just about the sport. Like I'd love for them to like open their eyes to all the things and the relationships and the networking that comes with it. So not necessarily like I feel like you're a better player when you're happier outside of your sport. So not necessarily like go 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 on just the one thing, because sometimes if you just look up, like some answers will come into your sport that from like the oddest places. So I'd say kind of advocating for yourself outside of the sport to make sure like you get to where you need to be in life and apply that to your sport.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's great advice for sure. Simone Jackson, thank you again for your time. It was really cool to talk to you. It's such a pleasure to have you on Behind the Caution Tape. Really enjoyed getting to hear your story. So thank you again for taking time out of your day.
Of course. I loved it. Thanks for having me.
Of course, that's going to do it for this episode of Behind the Caution Tape. Thank you again to Simone Jackson. As I said, make sure to follow her at simonejackson.80 on Instagram. Make sure to follow me at CrashLit on social media. Also check out my website, crashlit.com. Got another interview on Thursday with USC basketball alum Joshua Morgan joining the pod. So I'll see y'all Thursday. Thank you again to Simone Jackson, and fight on.
Right on.